Hello guys, how are you? I hope you all are doing good. So today we are gonna interpret Aristotle's theory of constitution. Let's just move to it. Aristotle has given the theory of constitution. Aristotle has given the theory of constitutions as he studies 158 constitutions at that time available at the various city state by comparing them he got to the conclusion of fine constitution. Classification of constitution. One is normal and perverted. Perverted is can be the corrupted form. Normal are when ruling class rule in interest of citizen, and perverted are when they rule for themselves. He is also known as the father of comparative politics, as he has compared 158 constitution. On the basis of which he has given some number of rulers and the normal and the corrupted form, like numbers, uh, number, and here we will make the column of normal. Well, the good means good government, and the power and the corrupted form. When there is the rule of one, when it works in the interest of the citizens and the people of their state, it is monarchy, or in concept of Plato, it is philosopher king. But when it gets corrupted, it becomes tyranny, means there is no rule of law. And when there is a rule of few, it can be in the form of that when the few clans are ruling in the rotation basis, as we have seen in our ancient India, that the kingdom of Avanti, where the rulers are form their oligarchy, in which the rotation basis they form their clan as the government, and it is when they work for the peoples, it is aristocracy. It is aristocracy. But when it got corrupted, it is oligarchy, and the rule of many is polity, and when it got corrupted, it is democracy. Aristotle is also not the supporter of the democracy. He also rejected democracy. He thinks that the democracy is the rule of masses, and the masses cannot rule the properly because they are ignorant. We will look into the further. Why, why is Aristotle gave the theory of the constitution? What is his purpose? His purpose was to find best practicable form of government. Second, most important parameter is that government is best practicable, means which are stable government. He was not in a favor of change. He is a conservative. He wants to maintain the status quo. Status quo. He doesn't like the single change. In his views, that the change is a part of the time and space. So so he made the constitution like that, which cannot be altered. Let's look how he defines the change. For Aristotle, any change, whichever, either it is big, small, or peaceful, full, or violent, is revolution. He he is not in a favor of change. He wants to maintain status quo. This shows that how conservative he was. Conservative he was. For it to understand that the how is the his constitution has developed, which is intellect, which is the theory of the revolution. Just look into it. And here we come to his theory of Aristotle's theory of revolutions. As he was a status quoist, so he doesn't want a single change or minor change as a revolution. For it, he gave the what are the causes and what are the solutions of the revolution. Yes, the causes of revolutions. He divided it into the general cause. General cause are something that which are periodic in nature, which develop at the time that after some time you want to change the government, you want to change the system, which is the general cause, which doesn't look for which he doesn't look as the most important thing that which is the rapid in change, which change continuously. But what are the main critical thinking he was taken as a particular cause? Particular cause are the causes of inequality, major cause. I think he considers this as major cause, inequality. Because inequality leads to just injustice, so it causes a revolution. He elaborated it more like in monarchy, which is a normal form, which because of the family jealousy that I wanna be the king, but he became so he wanna disrupt the system. He want to make his government as unstable in monarchy. So this will lead to the tyranny and aristocracy, where the rule of the few. If there will be the continuous rule of the few, then they will become the rule of rich. Through by saying this, that the poor will got jealous and they will make a revolt, and it will lead to the oligarchy, democracy, rule of poor. Rich will conspire against them, which will not be the good. Now, what are the solutions? Solutions are make good law, inculcate habit of obedience of law, promote duty, and further reduce inequality. Now move forward with the Aristotle theory of equality, which he has given. His theory of equality is somehow integrated with the theory of justice. He says that equality and justice has to be looked with togetherness. It can't be looked unequal separately. Let's see what he says. He says it is unjust to treat equals unequally. Let's take an example the of some small thing, like in your class you came first. That the first rank is shared by the two-person, which is you and and with your friend. But there is only one trophy and one prize, so they gave it to the other one, which is not justice. They should have to bring the another trophy to make it the equals, and it will alienate the feeling of inequality, and which can lead to the revolutions. So that's how it is. And he also says it is equally unjust, very unjust to treat unequals equally. Like for example, take an example of the of the marathon or some relay race in which there is a 100 meter of race and you have completed it into the five, let's say probably mm, in 5 minutes, but the other completed it with the 5 minute 30 seconds. But you both considered as the same first rank. Is it justice? In his view, it is not justice. He says that both they are not equal. So why you are comparing it equally? So in his view, that it is also not the justice. His idea of justice is based on observation of present world. Unlike Plato, who was looking for the world of God, who wants to implement it. Aristotle justice Aristotle classifies justice in form into two, which is general view and another is particular view. What are the general views? General views are derived with the common sense. Common sense means if you find some accident while you are traveling, then it is your justice or it is your duty to help him and get him released to the hospital, which is the general view of justice, which is derived from the morals and your ethics. But what are the particular view of justice? Particular views derive their power from state, like participatory justice. We will elaborate it further. Like participatory justice means that by through government wants to acquire your land. So it is the justice to the government gave you the compensation of that land, which was which was feasible at that time of your at the cost of your land, which is the it can be also the judiciary means this type of the justice is the justice of judiciary, and the another is distributive justice. Distributive justice derive their power from legislation, like government passes a law to give in COVID-19 during COVID-19 the free ration to ration card holders, which is the need of that time. So it is how it is. Principle of distributive justice. Look into it detail that how the government should make the legislation to implement the distributive justice. Distributive justice is like that who should get what by implementing Aristotle formula of his statement. It is unjust to treat equals unequally, and it is equally unjust to treat unequals equally. For it, he says, the merit is responsible for this, is responsible for distributive justice. There are three criteria of distributive justice, that is talent, merit, and the need. But Aristotle chooses the merit, not talent and need. Then look how talent and merit are equal. How talent and merit are not equal. Talent is something that the person makes a fine pot. A potter makes a fine pot. And but the merit is the pot is required? No. So talent cannot be used as a justice because it is of no use in the society. And he doesn't want. If in merit, if he is a somehow you can say the construction or businessman, then yes, it is required more in the society. It has the high merit as compared to the potter. So he considers the merit because merit is derived from the society. What the society needs is the society needs you or not. If sometimes the the need of distributive justice. Distributive justice is what, who should get what, and why. By implementation of Aristotle's theory, it is unjust to that equals unequal. It is unjust to treat equals unequally, and it is equally to unjust to treat unequals equally. So his main focus was on merit. That the merit is responsible for all this. Then he decided that the distributive justice can be taken from the three categories, that is talent, merit, and need. Then look at how talent and merit are not equal. Talent talent are those like for take an example of the potter. That the potter is not considered as a potter has a talent of making a nice pot, but his necessity is not required by the society much as compared to the businessman, which is considered as the most one of the. So potter is a much required person, but does not require much by the society as compared to the businessman. So automatically the merit goes to the businessman and not to the talented person. Now, understand the critical evaluation of Aristotle's theory of justice. Aristotle has given his theory of justice is based on the merit in the present time, and that the merit cannot be the only justification to give the justice. Because let's take an example of the society of India. That the India is having the many sort of inequalities, which is based on the caste and income. So the the state is required to take the affirmative actions and do the positive discriminations by giving the reservation to the depressed classes and the subsidies to the poor peoples. So the in context of India, his theory of justice is not applicable and it is not feasible to the developing society. Relevance of Aristotle's theory. Aristotle's theory's relevance in the current time is not much. In three times that the content Relevance of Aristotle theory. Aristotle theory relevance is the central argument of his theory of justice and is the revolutions. And the revolution is because of the inequality. So the so his theory of inequality or equality is somehow revolution is somehow the necessary that because the inequality is there, so it can be. Now look into the what is the best practicable form of government according to him. The best practicable form of government according to him is the polity. Why polity? Polity because that the polity is mixed of government which doesn't which is mixed with some of the greater ideas and not the strict as a it goes to the moderations, not to the strict ideas, and it have the rule of law and the rule of middle class. And the why the rule of middle class is good? The rule of middle class is good as when the rich will be the ruler, then they will conspire against the poor, and it will lead to the anarchy. And if the poor are the ruler, they will conspire against the rich, and it will also lead to the anarchy. Then the middle class is the best form, and they are stable. Why? Because the poor will trust the middle class as they are more close to him in consider to the income and the status, and the rich also because the middle class is also also closer to the rich, so they will not conspire against each other. So that's why they will able to maintain their stable government. Aristotle considers the democracy as the second worst form of government, and the first worst form of government, according to him, is backed by the tyranny. Tyranny is the worst form of government. He also considers it is like that. But he considers that in democracy there is a rule of masses, and the rule of masses is the rule of the poor, and the rule of poor is the rule of ignorant person. Ignorant persons are not ignorant persons are not they are not they are not incompetent to rule as they do not have the reason that how the government should be the run. So that's why the poor and so that's why the democracy and the rule of masses is not good according to him. He says the polity is the best, but it is not the best practice. Polity is not the best form of government, but it is the best practicable form of government as compared to the others. He consider it good form of government best because he says he says best is unachievable, so don't sacrifice good for the sake of the best. That's how it is. So thank you. Bye bye.